We're ready? Okay. Call the meeting to order. We have a quorum and approval of minutes. Everyone has had an opportunity to read the minutes.
I'll make a motion we accept.
Okay, good,
I second that motion.
good. Okay. All those in favor? Right hand. Opposed likewise? Okay, that has passed. Rescue Squad updates. Region 1 and Region 2 are not here. Region 3, Michael?
Everything's going all right at Rescue 5. We're running short on staffing just like everybody else is. For somehow, most all of our active people are working the same shift now. So we have days that we have very few response. Have not been in contact with Mr. Tatum from Rescue 4. And I know Tammy's not here. Alan White asked at the fire chief's meeting about why there was not more knowledge of the heart training for the responders to be able to be included in that like they always are. So,
I will have to check for you. I'm not sure. It's the first time I've
Yep.
been here for that. I know Special Rescue was involved. They sent an email out to Special Rescue. Steve, I'm correct on that?
Yeah, but they usually put it out to everyone in the county.
Okay, well, I'm not.
I assumed they did because I heard that there were so many people who had signed up.
Right.
Okay. He just brought it up at the chief's meeting, so since his rep wasn't here, I just thought I'd bring it up. That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Region 4, Dr.
Okay.
Spogus.
Yeah. Rescue 22, we had ordered a digital radio and it has arrived. A repeater to go in the truck, it just needs to be installed. So our radio is in our hands.
Probably needed programmed first.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, you can tell me what I need to do to get it installed
Okay.
in the truck.
If you get it to me, I'll get it to Brian Sheriff.
Okay,
So Brian or Ben, his son, are doing a lot of the programming now.
okay.
Or you can just catch them at Kiwi.
I can do that too.
Yeah, he
Okay.
works, Brian works at Kiwi Fire.
Right.
Get it to him.
I see them both periodically. but
Okay,
I will
super.
do that, but then somebody's gonna need to install it into
Brian
the
can
truck,
do that.
you know. I've
Talk
never done
to Honeycutt.
it. Got it. Okay.
I talked to him today about that, and he wasn't sure who was doing it, him or John Irwin or,
What, installing?
Yeah.
Or, motor pool can't install?
they can?
They can.
Oh, good.
Or we're gonna have an outside vendor.
Okay,
We just gotta get in line with all that, because they just had a bunch of new sheriff's department vehicles come in,
Okay.
so.
super.
Anyhow, the radio that we ordered is in. It's in my sweaty little phone.
Great.
So,
Good deal.
and at our last meeting, we had a pretty long discussion about trying to rebrand Rescue 22. You know, since we are simply EMRs and we're right beside Station 17 with our district. Many people feel that they're not as useful as we used to be. So Director Carroll spent a good hour with us, so we had a good long discussion, and we're gonna really work toward keeping the squad not as is, but trying to set a focus to be more useful.
That's great.
We have a number of, we have, I believe, 4 of the squad members actually a CPR certified to train CPR, for example, so.
Are they with American Heart?
I don't know for sure. I believe so, but don't quote
I
me.
think so.
All right,
Because there are only 4 agencies that are approved.
okay. Anyhow, that is where we're looking at, retention and recruitment and being useful. So that's all I've got for Region 4.
Okay. Rescue 7 and 8. We've certainly been busy, especially Rescue 8. We're having the same difficulties of getting enough people to call. We're soon going to be taking some action about that. We're meeting with Director Crine to discuss a good way to phrase all that. It seems we have a lot of members who are members, have radios, which are very expensive radios, don't go to calls and don't come to meetings and don't come to training. So we feel we need to do something about that. We got a new boat, a small pontoon boat given to us by the Sheriff's Department, also made by Clark Boats, who make our bigger boats. We're excited about that. We have some radios ordered to go in, a marine radio, a county radio, and a sheriff's radio. I have to get with Director Crine to see what he wants us to do about lights and sirens. We got a forestry vehicle, and it needs to be painted, and we have a radio for that. And we need to find out about lights and sirens for that vehicle. And the old vehicle that came with the sheriff's boat, Ford Excursion. Same thing with that. We have a radio ordered for that, and we need to find out about lights and sirens. So we're getting lots of good equipment in, and
If I may interject, the new boat is fun to drive. I had a chance to drive it yesterday on Joe Cassie
oh, that's
for
great.
the heart training. So
Super.
it's a good addition.
Right. That's good. A little hot in that cab, I'll bet.
White.
Like an oven.
Yeah, we have
We're
some,
working on it.
I had some suggestions on, yeah.
It's on my, I just added it to the whiteboarded projects for things to add to it.
Mike's gonna get us an air conditioner for the cab.
I don't know, we'll get air conditioning, maybe a window open and,
Boy,
A
that's
window that
nice.
opened in the front would be a good start.
but, fans and a opening window.
Yeah.
Our,
But it is a good running engine.
that's great.
I've never heard of a Tohatsu, but
That's super.
it worked great.
It's the overseas version of Suzuki, I was told.
Huh.
Yes.
They have the same plant, everything,
Yeah.
that's just the overseas market name.
Yeah.
One of our boats was called in by Anderson County to come put the boat fire out down at Portman Marina a couple
Oh,
weeks
yeah.
ago,
Mhm.
and it went smoothly. You can't put fiberglass out with water.
Yeah. Well, it probably went smoother than they told you last summer.
Well, that's why 3 hours after the fire started, they called us in, because it was still burning. But I understand, I asked Larry Wilkerson to give Charlie King a call and let Charlie, because he's the president of the association, to get in touch with whoever he needs to get in touch with, get us permission to use some of these new types of foam that supposedly don't hurt fish and stuff. So I guess that would be DNR and the Corps and Duke. So that's in progress. We must have put, I don't know, 30,000 gallons of water on that thing for an hour straight, just poured it on.
Can you pump foam through those pumps that are on the fireboats on 704 and 5?
We would just need a different nozzle, an induction nozzle. It just suck the foam up from a can, and it mixes in the nozzle.
Interesting.
Okay, committee reports. Tammy didn't let me know anything about her committee. I can tell you about the, well, Mike's gonna give a report on the incentive committee, so I'll just let you do that.
Okay, well, I can back up.
Okay.
On that report for the training committee. We're still working on that,
Oh, good, thank you.
document, to hope bring everything together, a consolidated training requirement for all emergency responders, EMRs, EMTs. We did cancel our last meeting this past month.
Correct.
Because of certain things that were going on.
Yep.
All right, incentive. This was a joint fire and rescue commission working group. This year, the incentive program for those active members of volunteer stations and squads will be using the rosters that are turned in by their quarterly by their each department roster. Okay, each month or quarter, when you put in for your checks, you submit your financials, you submit an up-to-date roster. We also use ERS to establish the calls that the person who has run for that time, and also the training that that person has done during this past year for their incentive. This is a requirement for a current firefighter or responder. County physical within the year's incentive period, October 1, 2020 to September 30th, 2021. All physicals will need to be in ERS. So if it's one of the physicals that we are handling either upstate or
North Greenville.
North Greenville, excuse me, we'll enter that data into the computer, DRS. Personnel who fail and go back and see their personal physician for some reason needs to present that document from the personal physician stating that they are cleared per their personal physician for, that anomaly that was seen during our physical. Okay? And that's a physical, if you fail it or pass it, you still got your physical completed, as I read this. Everyone will need to have a valid CPR card, and there's been a lot of talk about what's a valid CPR card. All right, South Carolina chose to go with the National Registry for our EMTs and EMS program. Of those 4 agencies that they take CPR cards from, and it's for healthcare providers, BLS, or CPR BLS for healthcare providers. That's American Heart Association, American Red Cross, American Safety and Health Institute, otherwise known as ASHE, and a Military Training Network, which they do because of the bases in the state that use South Carolina EMTs, or have South Carolina EMTs. Those are it. There's a bunch of others out there. We have enough instructors. I've talked to several people today. If some people need them, like special rescue, or most everybody, squads get it. I think it came down to just like a handful of special rescue team members. But we'll have a class for them. Give them an AHA class. That's easy to do.
Can I ask you a question about that? Brady, yesterday, we were discussing a problem with that. About that the cards go directly to the person who takes the class, and they're either not getting the cards or they're getting them and forgetting to send you a copy. I brought up the fact that we had been talking about, instead of putting the person's email address, they said that American Heart wouldn't allow that, because that would have solved the problem. Any idea what we can do about that problem?
Well, it's the person taking the class puts down their personal email. They can put whatever email they want. It could be the department's training officer. It has to be listed by that person. And this person who wants to receive an incentive should ensure that they use a valid email address that they'll get their card and can forward it to someone at emergency services or their training officer to put in the computer and note that.
I brought that up, and Brady said that he believed that it wasn't allowed because American Heart sometimes sends out questionnaires for you to rate the course. And
Right.
So,
It's supposed to be your personal,
right,
that's what I'm saying. The person who gets the card is ensuring that whoever did the training gets their card, their personal card. So it's up to them, some responsibility to get that card to us.
we just have to drive that into the students to do that.
So that's the CPR.
Okay.
Training, normally is 20 hours for firefighters. Okay, this year is waived down to 10 because of COVID. 10 hours for emergency responders. This year is waived down to 5 hours for EMRs. 10 hours for special rescue team members. That was waived down to 5 hours because of COVID this year. For those administrative duties that each department has, non-running members who don't take part in classes or training or run calls, another way for their administrative people to get it, or come up with a 50-point system that can be distributed to departments, and that's how they come up with it. Any questions?
Does dive fits in with that same special rescue?
Yes, sorry, that's kind of like grouped together.
Okay.
But there, I'm not sure, for dive, how many are required hours? I don't want to speak out of turn on this one. How many required hours are required by a diver each year to stay current with continuing ed and training?
In the past years, they've always had the same training requirement as all the other rescue squads.
I get that. For incentive, yes, but to keep their actual dive cert as a hard hat diver or whatever, there's still got to be a requirement they've still got to meet the requirements to be those specialty divers. See
To
what I'm saying?
remain current. Yep.
Yes.
Yep,
This is just to get incentive.
right.
Any other one?
Oh, one thing we should mention too, that all the rescue squads and special rescue squads that have had the requirement of 10 hours of training per year, next year it is going up to 20. It'll be the same as fire departments. That was discussed at that,
Okay.
to make it fair. We couldn't even remember how it got to be half of what fire is.
For me.
Yeah, me too.
So both fire and rescue, we need 20 hours of training next year.
Yes.
To qualify for
Yes.
incentives.
And that training is documented training.
Yes. Has to
Action
be
training?
ERS.
Documented training. Load the certificates into ERS. Training officers.
So if somebody does a training on the internet, most of the time you can get a certificate. Make sure Mike gets it. And if they don't give certificates, usually a copy of the email that you get from them telling about that you're signed up for the training.
I pretty much have everybody active, rescue squad members up to date with current physical dates, current CPR dates, and their expiration of what an EMR, EMT.
Good.
I'm gonna try to send out, when you send me your list back, I'll send it back to you with all those dates that you could, as chiefs and secretary treasurers, and I'll have that info.
That'd be helpful.
Okay. Is that it for your committee report?
That's it for committee.
Okay, let me give the committee report for radios. We're coming down to the wire. I heard the other day that the radio for Lever Hall has come in. I know it's going to be installed rather quickly because all the infrastructure is there. I was hoping that by now the radios, the repeater for the water tank in Salem, and the testing radio equipment that we're going to use to go around and test at the fire departments and rescue squads that have weak areas. I was hoping they would be ordered by now. Travis Tilson told me they have not yet. I think Cryan and Tilson were working to get some county funds for that.
I'll check into it.
We're pushing hard for all the squads and departments to get their apparatus digital radios and portable digital radios for members. I'm still trying to get people to turn in reports about the coverage area of digital in their areas. It's like pulling teeth. I keep telling them that, please send me an email that says our area is okay, rather than nothing, but I'm not getting any response. We have to assume that those areas are 100% fine if we don't hear from them, and they will not be tested. North Georgia Communications still seems to be the lowest price for radios. That's about it that I have for that.
While you're on the radio stuff,
Yes, sir.
has Chief Crine talked to you about the tower over in Westminster? You know anything about that? Okay.
Fire department tower?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Oh, the tower that just became available, that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Came available as in,
The city had a tower, 75, 80-foot tower. I showed it to Chief Crine, that they were just gonna tear down because it's in the way. And he was gonna check prices on getting a crane or somebody in there to take it down so that we could use it elsewhere in the county and not have to buy one.
gotcha.
So,
I'll follow with that, email everybody.
okay.
Michael, you had a subject you wanted to bring up about EMS response during the storm.
Yes. Mike, you may have some info on this or light on, the other day when the tornado warnings went out, EMS broadcasted that they would not be responding to any emergent calls until the warning was over. I didn't know that was an option for us in emergency services. And if so, if they're not going to respond, I don't think it's safe that we send our volunteers out into that.
Correct.
So I could understand if winds are excess of 40, our normal shutdown procedures, but, and I take every warning serious, but we're still emergency services. So, that may be their protocol. I've been doing this 30 years, I ain't never heard that.
When I heard it on the radio, I was taken aback by it too, because we had units going to, or responses in the areas that were not affected by a tornado warning.
Correct.
So I made sure that our communication passed on relayed to the units operating on I-85. Hey, you're not gonna get, they already said they're not responding until, I think it was 1:45,
Yeah, okay.
something like that.
Yeah.
And that was 30 minutes, but these units would be out there waiting. Prisma, it's their own organization. We have not met with them since that day, and that's on one of my topics to find out just how that's called.
Okay. Just kind of curious, since we're sending free people out.
I'm wondering,
With you, I would say the Weather Service now can break it down by what area, instead of saying the whole county,
That's
you know,
right.
you get the general alert. Break it down by what area. Our communication center gets that, if I'm, don't want to be corrected if I'm wrong, but, gets that information where that cone is in the county compared to, you could be in Salem
Yep,
and have a tornado warning, and it'd be blue skies in Fairplay.
that's right.
So, that's what we gotta sit down and look about. But when you have communication centers that are not co-located, you're gonna have issues.
Understand.
I wonder if there's some type of a policy that OCES can put into effect regarding that type of stuff. If the weather is too bad in an area.
That looks like that would be a joint volunteer chiefs commission type thing to work on a response protocol, because like you said, we're a very wide, large county that, like you said, it affects, like you said, we have certain things, we have storm warnings up there if the wind conditions got to within over 60 miles an hour or 50 miles an hour during hurricanes, we would stop responses until conditions became safe for the emergency responders. Everybody was told to hunker down and get in place. So this, putting ourselves in line for people who decide to go out and see what the storm's doing, you gotta take one, as they come. But people who have an actual medical emergency in their homes that are hunkering now during the storms, that's what we gotta look at.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Scott Krine's report.
See, to answer, to go back to the squad reports, I did go to Rescue 4's meeting, and they had 3 members present. Talked with them about, we need to start reaching out to more past members. When you walk in the hallway, you got nice pictures of all the way back to the 90s. Some of these people may still want to volunteer, come back and get them involved. I've got some data back from people who are interested in getting involved back with the rescue squad and putting in applications. Excuse me, my throat's dry from the fire. Like I said, went with Rescue 22's area to their meeting. We had a good discussion. I mean, it's, like I said, we're getting to a point when you got around-the-clock fire protection, running EMTs are sometimes higher, plus a paramedic response vehicle and ambulance out of that station. You know, it's kind of hard when you get there, and the next thing you know, you're getting out and you're getting put in service because the ambulance is already on the scene. So we're gonna work with them. They're working, studying, they talked about bringing in some of their business people for business plan type stuff that they have people in the community, and maybe re-image what we do. You know, they a lot of experience, and a lot of great medical knowledge in that squad. See, let's go, discussion on crimes report. Discussion regarding non-response on incident calls and reports. And this was to properly document personnel running calls. There was a generic code in ERS. It just said no response when someone did not get out. So with that said, you cannot keep an accurate count of what no response was by who, because it was just a person. So each squad, fire department, and agency was listed a no response code in ERS. And if that agency does not run, and whoever does run that incident does run, if it's a 37501 run report, which we all fall under for rescue and emergency services, then that agency will be listed as, just say for instance, NR4, no response 4, so you can document that it didn't go out. It may say on that same report, RC1, or, Rescue 1 Charlie wound up running it. So we can see coming across the run calls. So now to better account for personnel and where we also, if we're just not documenting a call, how do we know where we need people in what areas? During what time of day? We're running short in a certain area. So without proper documentation of our areas where we are light during the daytime or in the afternoons, you don't know how to plan for improvement. So, any questions on that?
The only thing I'll say is we need to make sure that it's done properly. I talked with Chief Long this week. He's looking back into it. We had a call 2 weeks ago now. Med 24, Rescue 5. They did not hear Jaron go en route because he was coming from Cleveland area, so his radio didn't get out. Med 24 requested 21 to respond. 21 responded. They was coming from camp. Naturally, they were a lot closer to Cobb Ridge. They got on scene first, had patient care. Naturally, we'll have to do the PCR. Rescue 5 and Med 24 got on scene. When you go back to do their portion of the report, our vehicles were deleted off the report, and it had a no response for those 2 agencies.
Okay.
And both agencies were on scene. So I don't have an issue with that for tracking purposes, as long as it's being done accurately.
And by you catching it and getting it to the battalion chief,
Yes.
so we can fix them. I know Steve's called me about several too. And also, with, Ray Smith has had some where he's,
Yeah, everywhere.
so just call the battalion chief know if it's a rescue issue, let me know. And I can correct the problem. And if they don't get out, and I've had to do this myself with the radio system, call on the phone and let them know that, hey, I'm on the scene. Like yesterday on, Dr. John's,
Oh, yeah.
they never rushed me on the scene. So,
It happens a lot.
And they just get busy too and miss it sometimes.
right, I mean, the airwaves that they are, we had the guys on the boats, you were up there, you were up there last night, up on J. Cassie. For some strange reason, I was riding the squad for the guys on the MT class. I could hear them in Shiloh. The guys on the boats couldn't talk to each other. I could hear everybody. Dispatch couldn't hear them, but I could. So we just gotta look at that. And that's, like I said, people get these dead areas in, so we know where, put repeaters. So that when you call and you need help right away, and you don't have cell phone access, you're getting it.
Well, if they're on a repeater and you can hear them, you better believe dispatch can hear them. I mean,
Should.
it's the way it is.
Should.
We know that, but.
A lot of growing pains on this,
Sure.
okay?
Sure.
And we do have a lot more newer guys doing reports. And that's both volunteer responders and fire. Because we had some volunteer responders also closing out calls before. So it's a learning for both all the new people getting in ERS.
Do you think we'll get to a time when there's an instruction manual put out, which will maybe have to be added to? Because there are so many specific ways of doing things that not everyone's aware of it. It would be nice to be able to rely, look back on something to make sure when people are doing reports.
It does. Any discussion on that more? Okay.
No.
Social media policy, I apologize when we were going to forego that one. I guess Chief Greer had something, but I was not, time the frame of the day, I was not able to retrieve that from him. Physicals. We have one coming up, the 2nd at Long Creek. We still have plenty of spots available for people to get their physical. And as always, as has been, a stress test is required for this physical for passing.
Did you say earlier you don't have to pass the stress test, you just have to be in the physical? Did I hear
If
you?
you get a physical and you fail the stress test, and you go to the doctor and they say, well, you shouldn't be doing this, they're kind of right. Or they come back and say, your cardiologist or whoever authority says, no, they're signing off on you, then that's good. If you just fail it and, and you're just like, okay, I'm not gonna run calls, but you passed your physical and you meet the rest of the requirements of an administrative member, then that's good for an incentive.
I see.
There's a new form coming out. I was talking to Bone about it the other day, which is a special form that you use if you go to your own private physician for a physical. And it explains in detail what's required of that physical so it meets county's requirements. They're not ready to give that that form out yet. They're still waiting for some opinions from the county attorney, but that will be coming.
And we covered incentives already. That's all I have, unless you got any more questions.
Everyone's good.
Not at the moment.
Michael, you have anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Next meeting will be
Late September,
sometime next month.
month of September. Say, I have the 23rd,
Okay,
Yes,
is the fourth Thursday.
fourth Thursday is the 23rd.
9:23 at 1800. Okay,
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that motion.